My name is Richard Humphries. I'm a photojournalist from the UK, and I'm currently based in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. And I'm here at the International Conference of Asian Scholars in Chiang Mai for my exhibition and book launch entitled Kingdom's Edge. Kingdom's Edge represents my long-term personal project documenting daily life in Thailand's Deep South region. So in the southernmost provinces of Narathiwat, Pattani and Yala, and also in Songkhla a little bit. And these three southern provinces, they touch on the border with Malaysia. And I've been covering this project in depth since late 2005, early 2006. And I've just concluded my project with the publication of my book of the same title, Kingdom's Edge, which I first took an interest in late 2005. I could see that on the news there was some shootings and bombings happening every day. And this just made me very, very curious. So I tried to research a little bit more and meet photographers and journalists, perhaps trying to meet some people who had been there and get some information from them. And I found that the knowledge and information that I was getting was very low, and I wasn't getting much information. So I started doing my own research into the Thai Deep South and the situation there. And through that research I found that the conflict in the Deep South was in fact at that time the third largest insurgency after Iraq and Afghanistan. And I was shocked. I was shocked to hear this, that first of all that there was an insurgency of that scale on the southern borders of Thailand, and that there wasn't more in-depth media coverage of that situation. So I think that that motivated me tremendously to go to that region and find out what daily life was like for people in that area living in such a situation. So I took my first trip to southern Thailand in the end of 2005, and I made multiple return trips for the following year, maybe 1 and a bit years, and it was very, very difficult for me at first. It was very, very difficult to get any kind of access to the real life of the people. It was very difficult for me to get access to the real stories of the people, of what their life was like, how they were managing, what kind of life they have. It was very, very difficult at first, and often I felt like giving up. But then I started to make some very interesting contacts of people there, who I formed very, very nice friendships with, and they helped me. They helped me to progress forward with my story, and I found that through those connections and contacts, my body of work started to take on a real traction. I started to feel that I was learning more about the Deep South. I was discovering more what the situation was, and I was peeling back all these different layers. Every visit I made, I learned something new. I learned a new layer about the Deep South, whether it was to do with the conflict or whether it was to do with the history or the culture. Every time I went back, I started to learn more and more and more. And through those return trips and through those developing local relationships, I could see the body of work growing and getting more and more interesting. And I could feel myself as a photographer growing and becoming more and more immersed in this story. And it was 3 or 4 years into the story in my return trips that I started to develop a kind of methodology for going to the South. I would concentrate on themes such as history or education or culture, and I would try and focus on those themes. I also spent a lot of time with the Thai military in the Deep South, covering the situation from their side as well. I would embed with Thai troops, go on patrol with them in their Humvees, fly in their helicopter gunships, interview soldiers and officers to try and get a greater understanding what life was like for them, which was, I don't think, very good for them at all. I think it must have been a very difficult situation for a young Thai soldier from Udon Thani, for example, who's never been anywhere before and doesn't speak the local Malay dialect. I also started making very, very interesting, deep connections within the communities in the Deep South. People started seeing who I was, people knew who I was. And then several years ago, I had made a conscious decision that I would like to somehow conclude this body of work. You know, I must finish in some way and get this body of work in front of people. And so what I decided to do was to make a book, to do a photo book. That would be a really nice, tangible way to get this story, the story of the Deep South, into people's hands, to create a conversation, to create a dialogue. I think that, you know, and I felt that the book format would be the best way to do it. So once I consciously made that decision to conclude this work into a book, I felt that my angle and approach of the photography changed. It took on a different feeling and a different meaning. So instead of looking for images that might have a higher shock value or specifically relating to conflict, I started looking at the more subtle and gentle images of daily life, of history, things where I could use a single image to connect old Siamese Thailand with modern Thailand. And I became very aware about looking for those images. And then, you know, we edited the pictures down, and we edited them down from 65,000 images to the 79 images that you see in the book today, my book Kingdom's Edge. And I think that you know, this is perhaps the only photo-driven book on this subject. And I think that the timing for me was just right as well to get this book out, and you know, to really get this story out into the world. So, you know, I hope we can do something interesting, and I hope I have the opportunity to talk more about it for audiences.